I have been playing Zelda games since before I could read. I love it, it's my favorite video game series, and I have made it my goal over the last couple years to play every single one and beat it in its entirety. And I can say, I have finally done it. After playing all of them, I decided to look up online and see which one people thought was the best. And I started to see some similar results. A lot of people started to think that it was between Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Breath of the Wild. I kept seeing the names over and over again. But towards the bottom, I kept on seeing one that kind of bugged me a little bit. See, after playing all these, I formed my own opinions about them, and I kept on seeing people talk about which one was so underrated. And the one that I heard the most was Minish Cap. And I played it, and I beat it. I thought it was really good. I didn't think it was underrated, I felt like it was pretty fairly placed. I kept on seeing people put it in B or C tier. I think that's fair. But the one that I played that I was so confused why no one was talking about was The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS. This game is immaculate. This perfectly merges the two fan bases. See, the issue with Zelda games now is you have the standard formula or the new formula with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. That kind of branches off the fan base and divides it into two different sections. The fanbase used to be whether you thought Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess was a good follow-up to Ocarina of Time. People would argue online and say, no, I think Majora's Mask is better, or no, I think Twilight Princess is better. I have yet to meet a person who liked one and did not hate the other. And I know which side I'm on. I think Majora's Mask is the perfect follow-up for Ocarina of Time, and I did not like Twilight Princess. It is way too slow of a start for me, and even though I have a good patience level, I could not get through it. I couldn't sink my teeth into it. It took me about a year to beat Twilight Princess as compared to the other ones that only took me about a couple months. When playing, the game does get better after you get the Master Sword, but it's not worth the, I don't know how many hours, maybe 10 hours to get to the Master Sword, 15 maybe? It's just not worth it. But after playing Link Between Worlds, I was astonished to find that I could not find anyone talking about it and say that that is the most underrated one. It is. It takes the formula that everyone likes and merges it with the new formula of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. See, after 2017, the Zelda fanbase started to gain a lot more popularity because of Breath of the Wild. And it makes sense. It's a really good game. But a lot of people don't feel like it's a good Zelda game. I'm indifferent about it. I can see some aspects of it that are really good and new introductions to the series that I quite like. But I can also see that it does not have a lot of good Zelda stuff. Outside of Zelda, Master Sword, Link, and Ganon, and Hyrule, you could pretty much cram or replace all of that and the story would be unchanged. It really does introduce a lot, and it takes a lot of bold steps that I think was a good idea for this game, but I hope that it doesn't continue on in the new Zelda games. However, that open world feeling I really like, and that feeling is in A Link Between Worlds. See, most Zelda games, you don't get to choose what dungeon order you go in. But for A Link Between Worlds, you do. You can choose any dungeon you want to go to in any order. So after you get the first gem, you can choose between two dungeons of which one you want to do first. And then after that, you get to choose between the last couple, and you get to do them in whatever order you want. The exploration on it is amazing as well. I never felt like there was an area of the map that I was kind of locked to. Especially once the map doubles, you kind of just have to find the portal to go through and you can explore it as you want. It's so open world and it's so filled with variety, and it just feels great. The one issue that I do have with it, that a lot of people do, is the fact of the item system. See, in most games, you get about halfway through a dungeon, and you get the item that allows you to clear out the rest of that one, along with unlock the next dungeon in this path. But how do you do that when it's open world? Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom said, oh, well, we're just not going to have items, or we're going to give you all the items up front. Any items that you get, or if you want to even call them that, in Breath of the Wild, you get them on the Great Plateau, right off the bat. So when you go around, all the dungeons just kind of play out the same. Heck, even all the bosses are the same. When 3 out of 4 of your main bosses can be beat with bomb arrows, it's kind of boring, and it's repetitive. I never really felt excitement going into any of the dungeons in Breath of the Wild. And that sucks because the dungeons are some of the best parts of Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom ended up getting it a little bit better, but I still think that those dungeons are some of my least favorite dungeons in the entire Zelda series. The only one that I really liked was the Sand Temple one, but in A Link Between Worlds, they solved this problem by giving you a little shop owner, and he sells you the items, and you can either rent them, or later on in the game you can actually full out buy them. And they are pretty expensive, but a lot of times it is worth it to buy them because you can upgrade them, and the upgrades are insane. Some of these absolutely break these weapons. The Fire Rod, which used to shoot a little flame, now makes an entire wall. The bow shoots 3 at a time. The Ice Rod is also insane now. Bombs blow up even bigger than before. I mean, some of these upgrades are just kind of broken. And it makes the game a lot more fun, especially before you go into the dungeons. One of my favorite things to do is, before I enter the ice dungeon, is to fully upgrade the Fire Rod, because it is insane, and it absolutely makes that dungeon a lot quicker, and it's also just cool. It's a good weapon in the overworld. A giant wall of flame is never not going to help you in your gameplay, and that's what I like about it, the creativity. It really is the best aspect of all Zelda games, so much so that I think that this is an S-tier Zelda game. I think it's up there with the greats. See, on the tier list, a lot of the times that I see is that people really only put the 3D Zelda games up on the S tier, which I think is just the disparity between people who enjoy the 3D games and people who enjoy the 2D games. Even though the pacing is a lot better on a lot of them, it's kind of hard to get that jump. But A Link Between Worlds does it. I mean, it is perfect. It is by far not only the best 2D Zelda games, I think it's better than a lot of the 3D ones. This really is the perfect Zelda game, and I really do think it's up there with Ocarina of Time. And it sucks that every time someone says the most underrated Zelda game, I either hear Minish Cap or I hear one of the DS ones. And I grew up on the DS ones, and I love those, but I don't think that they're underrated. I think they're pretty fairly placed. I see them on C and D tier. That's pretty fair, I think. The story on those is the best part. I think the only issue with A Link Between Worlds, the reason why more people don't really look at it, is a lot of people just think it's a remake of A Link to the Past, which could not be even further from the truth. Yes, it does use the same map, but the dungeons, the bosses, the story, all of that is completely different. And some of the items, although they are borrowed from its predecessors, some of them are completely brand new and they work in completely different ways. The story on A Link Between Worlds is phenomenal, and the final boss fight, I think, is the most cinematic boss fight in any of the Zelda games. None of the other boss fights soar to this height. I think if they made A Link Between Worlds 3D, people would see it in a different light, but it doesn't need to be. The 2D aspect is what makes it so good. And one of the best mechanics of it uses that. The merging mechanic is so much fun. I really like that no matter what Zelda game you play, they all kind of play out differently. They all have their own unique little flavor, their own little gimmicks, but the merging gimmick is so much fun. You can now tackle dungeons in completely different ways. Yes, there are more times where it's pretty blatant. It's like, hey, you want to merge on that wall, you want to pop out, and boom, you're there. But a lot of times you get to really choose whether you want to use your items or merge and just continue on the game. It's really fun. It gives you a good sense of no matter what way you choose, you're doing the right thing, and that you feel like you did it different than everyone else did, even though most of the time you didn't. Another thing that really makes me upset is I think that a lot of people have just not played it because it's only on the 3DS. And right now it is really expensive to get a 3DS. I said this in my other video where I unboxed it, but they are really expensive. The only really chance you have of getting one under $200 now that's in good condition is buying it from another country or just getting lucky. It is kind of insane that it's hard to get one. And not to mention Zelda games hold their value, unless you decide to pirate it. But hey, I managed to get myself a copy and I love it. This is by far the most replayable Zelda that I've ever played. A lot of Zeldas stem from the issue of like your first couple hours of gameplay, although great your first time, they're not really good your second or third time. Ocarina of Time is a really slow start, although I like it a lot. Until I get to Death Mountain, the game just kind of drags on. There's not really a lot of things that I can do that I haven't already done before. But when I play this one, I can do dungeons in completely different orders. I can go and explore more. I can try to get a whole bunch of different stuff. And not to mention, this is one of the most like rewarding Zeldas to 100%. All the items and all the side quests actually help you really a lot. One of my favorite ones is the little, I don't know what they're called, hermit crabs? Yeah, hermit crabs. The little hermit crabs that you find that allow you to upgrade your weapons, those things are so much fun to find. Once you unlock that area, you constantly hear little chirps and you have to do different types of puzzles and solve things in order to find them. and your reward for that is great. Like, you actually get upgradable weapons. Breath of the Wild, it has 900 Korok seeds, and there's not really that big of a reward for getting them. Yes, you get more item storage, but if you're good at item management or you only carry a couple weapons on you, there's not really any times where you need full item slots. And heck, your reward for getting them all is just a little pile of poop. It's a terrible, terrible system. And it's my least favorite part about the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like, little duo that they got there. I like both of those games. I don't think that there's a single Zelda game that I dislike besides, like, Zelda 2 and a little bit of Twilight Princess. But for the most part, all of these games are really good. But this game is phenomenal. Every single person that has asked me how do I get into the Zelda series, I either tell them Ocarina of Time or this. This one is a perfect introduction, and it actually might not be the best because they'll never find anything that soars to the heights of this game. The final boss fight is great, the music is phenomenal, the item system is interesting, the dungeons are great, the story's great, the way that Link is characterized here is perfect. I cannot think of a single issue with this game besides the fact that the item system is a little bit more boring than the others. But that's, again, you're comparing Zelda series to Zelda series. Some of them are just going to be better than others. But if you don't compare it to that and just compare the game by itself to other games, it slaps, dude. This game is so much fun. I mean, I have so much to say about this game, but I really don't want to spoil it, just in case you're watching this video and you have not played it yet. This game alone is worth the price of tracking down a 3DS in order to play. There are many games on the 3DS that are great, but this is my favorite game on the 3DS by far. It is so much fun and so replayable. And I also think that it is my third favorite Zelda game of all time. I really do. This game is the most underrated Zelda. And every time some kid comes up to me saying, "Oh no, it's Minish Cap," you're wrong. This game blows Minish Cap out of the water. Alright, well, that is pretty much it. If you liked this video and you watched it all the way through, be sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to see me stream or play, or maybe do a Let's Play of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, let me know in the comments, because I'm definitely going to buy that day one, and I'm probably going to beat it way too quickly. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Subscribe.